Welcome, everybody, to the NFL show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. As always, the Grueling Truth is powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding the online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. Make sure you check them out at betting.net. All right, guys, I am your co-host, Mike Goodpaster. I want to welcome in my other two co-hosts, the NFL show. First up, we've got Steve, the Barker Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Woof, woof, woof.
And, of course, Dan, I'm always late, Kornhauser.
Hey, guys. Hope my volume's okay now.
Your volume is fine, Dan. Now we just got to work on what you say. All right, today, guys, we're going to look at the NFC Power Rankings headed into the 2022 season. And, I mean, we've got to talk a little bit about Kyler Murray here, even before we do the Power Rankings, don't we, Dan? What do you think of the contract Kyler Murray got?
Well, I think it's ugly. It's market value, which is fine, but I don't think he deserves that kind of money right now. He's got to win in the playoffs. They haven't gotten close to a chip at all. He fell off big time in the second half last season after DeAndre got hurt, after he came back from injury. And one of the big things a lot of people were talking about is the clause in his contract that mandates he study independently at 4 hours a week of like game film or whatever, and that he not play video games or be on his cell phone or anything like that during that time. Which, I mean,
that almost sounds like he's dad's the owner of the Cardinals.
You're a professional. Forget quarterback. You are a professional athlete. Do you really need to be told to do your job? And not only are they telling him to do his job, which he should be doing anyway, but they're paying him a boatload of money knowing that they need to put a clause in his contract that makes him study. I don't get it. It's a bad look on all fronts. I get why they did it, but I hate it.
Well, I mean, the thing is this, Steve. If I'm going to pay a guy almost $250 million, I shouldn't have to tell him what he needs to do. He should already do it. And I don't think this is market value because I don't think he's a top 15 quarterback in the NFL, Steve.
Two things here. Number one is I DM'd Kyler Murray and asked him if he was going to stay off. Could I buy his PlayStation 5 from him? We need one out by the pool. We've only got one in the house, and I'd like to put one out by the pool so we can play outside at night when it's really nice. And so I'm waiting to hear back from him, see if he'll sell me his PS5 because I can't get one at any price, except for the one I bought, which I paid a lot of money for to get. It'd be nice to hear back from him today because it's my son's 28th birthday today. I'd like to get him another PS5. This is what he needs. There's another hole in his head. So, and the other thing is, no, you shouldn't have to tell anybody to do that, Mike. I agree with you. I go back to guys like Brady and Manning and these guys. You know how much time, I'm sure Aaron Rodgers, they all spend an exorbitant more than 4 hours a week in the film room going over pregame and game prep and do things like that.
It's crazy.
It's absolutely asinine to think about that until I look at the fact that my trash was picked up at 6 o'clock this morning and my goddamn cans are still sitting out there because my son didn't go get them and took off for a birthday party instead because today's his birthday. So that's just the way this generation is. They have to be told these things, Mike, I guess. They're just not responsible or accountable.
Yeah, and the fact is this, he's not that good. And Dan, you talk about him winning in the playoffs. He probably needs to start winning in November and December.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's a joke. And I think this dooms the Cardinals for probably the next 5 to 10 years because in a couple years, they're going to need another quarterback. All right, today we're looking at the NFC Power Rankings, which is kind of a mess. I think the top two, there's no doubt who they are. I think really there's 6 or 7 teams here that might be able to do something. The rest of this, as Dan would say, is ugly. We're going to start off with number 16. Dan, who's the worst team in the NFC headed into the 2022 NFL season?
The worst team in the NFC and the worst team in the NFL are the Chicago Bears. Now, as
I did say Steve, but go ahead, Dan.
No, you said Dan. No, you said Dan.
In my head, I said Steve. You guys need to hear the voices in my head. Go ahead, Dan.
I
So,
heard Dan.
yeah, right. Thanks, Steve.
I was pissed. This was an easy call. I was going to say, oh, good. I get to sound intelligent for a second because I was going to pick the team that everybody else picked. So now I'm just like, I agree. Go ahead, Danny.
So no, I was gonna say the Bears. I mean, where do I start? They have one of the worst offensive lines, one of the worst front sevens, and that's even with Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn, the edge rusher that they got. Both of those guys are holding out. They were both in camp when it started, but I don't think they're actually doing anything. They're just attending. So they're two holdouts. Quinn might get traded. Even with those guys, I don't like their front seven. They're starting Fields at quarterback, who struggled, to say it nicely, struggled last season. And behind a suspect offensive line, no real weapons on the outside. Montgomery is a great running back, but that's it on offense. Their defense is ugly at all three levels. And they're breaking in a new head coach, a rookie head coach. That's a bad combo.
All right, number 16, Steve.
The Bears, for all the reasons Dan said. I'm just appalled that, I mean, I've spent a lot of time in Chicago when I lived in Indianapolis. We used to go up there and enjoy that town, and the company I worked for, Pfizer, were corporate headquarters. Regionally, we're up there. So I was in Chicago a lot. That's a great town. It's probably one of the 2 or 3 best sports cities.
If you want to be murdered, it's a great town.
Well, you stay out of Cabrini Green, stay out of the south side of Chicago.
Yeah, but this is the thing. The Chicago Bears are probably not even going to stay in Chicago anymore. They want to go to Arlington Heights, and even though Mayor Beetlejuice in Chicago offered them $2.2 billion to renovate the stadium, they told her no. So not even the Chicago Bears really want to be in Chicago.
That's a shame because Chicago's getting a bad rap on this, and
because a lot of people die every day.
It ain't any better with the team, and the team does nothing to elevate it. The Bulls certainly showed what that town can produce, what they can do in the NBA. I don't know. I mean, Justin Fields is just an unknown factor. This league has just become such a quarterback-driven league that if you don't have the right quarterback in position, it just doesn't seem to really matter what else you have. I don't think so. I mean, you guys.
I will defend this. Justin Fields cannot be the correct quarterback because they do not put anything around him. This is not Justin Fields' fault.
No. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And the problem is the kid's going to be considered a bust probably for the rest of his born life because the Chicago Bears are inept. My 16 is different, though. I've got the Atlanta Falcons. I think the Atlanta Falcons are tanking this on purpose. And, I mean, they traded Matt Ryan, who was a quarterback that won an MVP trophy, turned around a franchise that was terrible before he got there. He made them a perennial playoff team. The Falcons, to me, are clearly in tank mode. It doesn't matter what Marcus Mariota does. This team will be in the running for a young quarterback in the draft. And I'm not saying that in a bad way for Atlanta because this is probably the best way to go right now. Because I think there's going to be 4 or 5 quarterbacks drafted in the first 15 picks next year. All 4 or 5 could be studs when they get to the NFL. So I don't think it's a bad idea what the Falcons are doing here. But that's my 16. My 15 is the Bears. And nothing says we trust our first-round quarterback, more than bringing in another defensive-minded coach, letting your top receiver walk, basically doing nothing to help him with receivers. The Bears are a mess and probably will be one of the worst teams in football next year also, unless Justin Fields becomes Houdini. And I think it's almost unfair to expect Fields to show anything in this training camp or anything in this season because they have not given him the weapons to be a big-time quarterback in this league. And the offensive line, they signed Riley Reif, who was the Bengals signed as a right tackle last year for $5 million. Riley Reif got hurt because Riley Reif always gets hurt. The Bears are giving him $10 to $12 million a year. They're penciling him in as the starting left tackle, and Riley Reif won't play much. He'll play 10 games tops, and he'll be hurt. So this is a team that is an absolute joke, and it wouldn't surprise me next year if all 3 of us have the Bears at number 16. All right, Steve, who do you got at 15?
I got the Seahawks. I think that team was in a mess with Russell Wilson. but he was keeping them in the hunt of mediocrity. I think by losing Russell Wilson, I think that team's ready for the same overhaul you're giving credit to the Falcons for.
I know.
I think they need to, retool. I don't think you're going to get anywhere with Drew Lock or Geno Smith at quarterback. And I think, again, I keep saying it's a quarterback-driven league. So I think they're just going to be with this roundhouse quarterback thing all season long, and they're never going to get any continuity, and they're just going to be – they made the NFC West a lot easier. All
right, Dan. 14 or 15? Where are we at, guys? 14, 15? 15.
We're still at 15. I'm also going to go with the Seattle Seahawks. And like Steve said, without Russell Wilson, we know what this team is. They're rebuilding. Drew Lock or Geno Smith are going to be their starting quarterbacks. One of them is going to be. Maybe the other one steps in for whoever starts week 1 down the line when they eventually suck. But I'm shocked Pete Carroll stayed around. This is an obvious rebuild. They just had, I think, Chris Carson retired due to, I believe, a neck injury, and that he was working back from that he, I think, sustained last season. And the Seahawks made some nice moves in the draft, but you're starting two rookies probably are starting at offensive tackle for you. That's always going to have growing pains, and that defense isn't what it was. Their quarterback is bad. Their O-line is bad. Their secondary is bad. Just it's ugly all around.
All right, I've got them at 14. And the reason I got them at 14 is I think they do have better roster than the Bears or the Falcons. And Russell Wilson's gone. Geno Smith, Drew Lock is a mess. But this is a team that does have some weapons on offense. You do have DK Metcalf. I think there is the possibility. You talk about 2 rookie tackles, but they picked 2 rookie tackles because the guys they had last year weren't very good. If the offensive line's improved a little bit, and that's a big if, I think that training camp may be the perfect time to go out and get Jimmy Garoppolo, because I know you can't stand Jimmy G, Dan, but he's a hell of a lot better than Geno Smith and Drew Lock. And getting Jimmy Garoppolo in here, if the offensive line is improved and you got DK Metcalf, this could be a team that could make some noise in a really bad NFC right now.
I guess maybe with the right quarterback, and I think you're really underselling how bad that defense is. That defensive front is just real threatening. And
I think this, though. I think with DK Metcalf, if the O-line is improved, decent running game, you get Jimmy G in there, I think this could be a team that maybe wins 6 or 7 games, but they're fun to watch because they'll score a fair amount of points, but they're going to give up a ton of points.
Oh, yeah. We'll see what they have going on. But a lot of that, like you said, is contingent on them getting a guy like Jimmy G, because what they have is just terrible.
Why on earth would Jimmy G want to go to Seattle?
Because Jimmy G ain't got a choice right now.
He doesn't have a choice, yeah. This ain't the NBA.
Yeah, he's going to be starting quarterback by week 5. It's in San Francisco.
Dude, this is the thing we've seen in the NFL. When you pick a guy as high as the 49ers picked Trey Lance, they may not yank him after 3 or 4 or 5 bad games. And
let me go back to Ryan Leaf, and let me tell you about a kid named Ryan Leaf.
Yeah, but you know what? There's been very few Ryan Leafs and Achilles Smiths that are that bad, that quick. And Trey Lance's legs will keep it alive for a little bit. But I still think right now the value for Jimmy Garoppolo is either going to be in training camp or it's going to be when you get to late September, early October before the trade deadline. And if you're the 49ers, you're almost hoping that a team like Buffalo or Cincinnati has an injury to their starting quarterback and they need somebody for the rest of that season that can get them to the playoffs, and then they overpay for a Jimmy Garoppolo. But I think that's the only way you're getting anybody to overpay right now. I think the Seattle Seahawks, though, probably have the best shot, but we all know nobody wants to trade inside their division. Steve.
I think the greatest place for Jimmy Garoppolo to go would the greatest NFL story, head back to New England.
But New England's not going to pay him that money for the year when they got Mac Jones.
Oh, they'd be better off. I love Garoppolo. I'm telling you what, I think he's one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the NFL.
You just say that because you think he's sexy. Who do you have at number 14, Steve?
I have the Falcons. We've already covered the Falcons.
All right. Dan.
14, yeah. I've got Atlanta as well. I can't wait to see Marcus Mariota lead this team to 3 wins.
Dude, I can't believe anybody would have the Falcons as the 14th best team. I think that's how bad they are. All right, Dan, number 13.
13, I've got the Carolina Panthers. And as I mentioned when we did the AFC rankings, I'm doing this using my little formula of sorts where I rank 5 important positions, essentially: quarterback, offensive line, for defensive front 7, secondary, and then head coach. And then I add them up at the end, and the team with the lowest number wins. And in this case, in my chart, Carolina's quarterback is questionable because if it's Sam Darnold, he might be the worst starting quarterback in the league.
Dude, it's going to be Baker Mayfield, who is probably the 5th best quarterback in the NFC.
And if it's Baker Mayfield, then they're theoretically in a much better spot at that position. But their offensive line is still a question, even after drafting Ike Mekwonu in the first round this year to plug in at left tackle. Their offensive line is still a question. Their secondary is a question, and their front 7 is still a question. And they're another team with a questionable head coach situation. Only this guy's been there for a couple of years. They haven't shown any improvement at all. And I think his seat is scorching hot to start the season, because if they start 0-4 or something like that, or 1-4 or something like that early in the season, you might get the boot.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this. I've got them slightly higher, not much. But I think the Carolina Panthers are one of those teams. If Christian McCaffrey could ever stay healthy all season long with Baker Mayfield, this is a team that could make a run at the playoffs, because the NFC is not very good.
And they've got good weapons. It's not that they
That's
don't.
What I mean, I think this is a dangerous team.
They got a great group. If, like you said, and McCaffrey is one of the top running backs in the league, if not the best, when he's fully healthy. A legitimate guy who could get you 1,000 yards on the ground and 1,000 yards through the air with 100 catches. Just feed him the rock. But
all right,
yeah,
Steve, 13.
Are we? 1, 2, 3, 13. Okay, yeah. I got the Giants at 13. I just, Daniel Jones is okay. He had started off on fire last year, but then he fell apart. But then his offensive line went down around him, which probably caused him to fall apart. So I just don't see them putting the effort into that team. They need to make it, but they're that silly team I talk about every year that they'll end up 8-8 somehow, or halfway, or 9-9. They'll get to 500 or get close to it, but they'll struggle like hell the first half of the season. So I had the Giants at 13.
All right, at 13, I've got the Detroit Lions. Now, this is my caveat. Everybody from 13 on up, especially between 13 and 8, 1 or 2 of these teams is going to jump up and make the playoffs, because they're not all going to be as bad as we think they're going to be, I don't think. I think the Lions are a fun team to watch. They were at almost every game last season. They had an excellent draft. They continue to build the team through the foundation of the draft. I think Dan Campbell is a fun guy to get quotes from when you watch him. He took solid steps as a leader in the locker room. Year 2 is going to tell us a lot about Dan Campbell. And I think the Detroit Lions could surprise some people. But when I look at the roster, Jared Goff at quarterback, I still think they're a year or 2 away. But I do think this, and I know, Dan, you're a Lions fan. If they continue to build this team the way they did this last offseason, in a couple of years, this could be a really good football team.
Oh, yeah, it definitely could be. The foundation is there. They're not completely barren of talent, and this offseason was a big part of that. But you look across the roster, this team is much more talented than it was just even a couple of years ago. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league. They added weapons at receiver, but they're still building. They're still a building team.
Yeah, but like I said, in the NFC, you never know. And with the energy this team plays with because of their head coach, I know I've got him at 13, but I could see him being in the top 10 or top 8 before this season is over, as crazy as it sounds. We saw it happen last year. Now, they didn't get a Jamar Chase, and they don't have Joe Burrow. They got Jared Goff. So maybe an outside shot to win 7 or 8 games, be improved. And if they do that, I think the sky's the limit for this team, because Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be in Green Bay forever. And it's not like the Vikings and the Bears are in any better shape, because I actually think this. The Vikings may be a better team than the Lions this year, but the Lions for the future are in better shape to make a run at the Green Bay Packers a year or 2 from now than either the Bears or the Vikings are.
I can get on board with that. They do. Minnesota does have more of an older roster, key spots, quarterback being one of them.
All right, real quick, betting.net finds the best promotions, offers, and bonus codes so you don't have to. Head over to their website now to take advantage of things like free bets and matching deposits. Make sure you check out betting.net. All right, guys, we're up to number 12. I'll go first because I think Dan just said these, the Carolina Panthers. And like I said, they've got weapons. As Christian McCaffrey stays healthy, this team could surprise people. Baker Mayfield, say what you want, but he's probably a top 5 quarterback in the NFC, where he would be like top 12 if he was in the AFC. So I don't think he's great, but I do think this. The Baker Mayfield addition made this team infinitely better. He's a lot better than Sam Darnold. My number 12 is the Carolina Panthers. Steve, who do you have at 12?
Carolina Panthers. For the same reasons you said, Mike. I again, Mayfield's one of those guys I just like. Maybe because I like his damn commercials he does on TV.
Really? You like those? I hate it.
Yeah, where he lived at the stadium and that was his yard. Yeah, I thought that was cute.
I still think there needs to be a commercial where he turns over the keys to the house to Deshaun Watson.
No, that would be funny.
And then Jacoby Brissett
and Watson's
with
posse comes riding in behind him.
a bunch of massage therapists come riding.
Yeah, we got to get off that. We got to get off that because I can make about 1,000 jokes right now. But yeah, I think the key there, like you said, is I really like the combination of Mayfield and McCaffrey. I think they're dangerous. Mayfield's not afraid to run. McCaffrey's an all-purpose player, the best in the NFL, next to Cooper Kupp, probably. But the health of McCaffrey is the $10 question there, and I think that team has potential to move up even higher than number 12 to me. But I'm going to put them down there because 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure they can hold together for the entire year.
All right, before we get to this, I want to tell everybody you can check out Caesar Sportsbook, which is our recommended sportsbook for betting on the NFL this year. You can make futures bets and even bet on next Thursday night's Titanic matchup between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Las Vegas Raiders in the Hall of Fame game. All right, Dan Kornhauser, number 12.
Mike, can you bet on Saturday night on SummerSlam?
Why would you want to bet on something that's fixed?
Oh my God! I've got into watching championship wrestling.
All right, be quiet, Steve. Be quiet,
I am addicted.
Steve.
You are
Steve,
hooked
stop,
on this
Steve.
stuff.
Steve, stop. We're talking sports right now. Number 12, Dan.
I'm not talking about the guys. I'm talking about the girls. You got to watch the girls. They're hilarious.
Dan, number 12. Before we have to talk to Steve about wrestling.
So, yeah, all right. So, my number 12. I just want to make one final note with the Panthers because they're so frustrating. They've got
You're really loud now, Dan. Turn it back down. Go ahead.
Sorry, I got excited. They got really good pieces, on both sides of the ball. Defensively, Burns, Brown, Thompson, Jeremy Chin, all right. J.C. Horn. I love J.C. Horn coming out last year, but they just haven't put it together. But anywho, my number 12 is the New York Football Giants, and this one's close to my heart because I am in New York. I hear about them every single day on the radio, even in the off season. And this is a very pivotal year for the Giants. This is like a make or break year for Daniel Jones. And if it's a break year, the Giants are right back at the drawing board. They're going to have to pick a new quarterback next offseason. Luckily for them, there's going to be a handful of them to pick at the top. But it's going to be one of those years where you figure out, okay, are we moving forward with this guy? Because he's in his last year of his contract. After this year, you're either keeping him by franchise tagging him, giving him $30 million plus for the year, and hope he answers whatever questions you have left, or he's useful. They win 8 games or something, 9 games, and you re-sign him to a 3 or 4 year contract. But it's going to be interesting to see it play out, and it feels like it's all on his shoulders because whenever people call into these radio shows and stuff like that, everything always goes back to Daniel Jones.
I think it does. I've got him at 11, and I think the question here is the Giants improved the roster from the draft. I thought they did a great job at the draft. I think they'll have a much better offensive and defensive line in 2022, and I think the Commanders and the Giants are both dark horse playoff teams. And if the ball is as good an offensive coach as it looked like in Buffalo, I think the Giants can make the playoffs. Now, the question, as you said, is Daniel Jones the guy? I don't think he is. But The NFC is not great. And I don't think Daniel Jones is Ryan Leaf, of course, or Achilles Smith. I think he's just a guy. Maybe that'll be enough to get you 9 wins and maybe slip into the playoffs. I doubt it, but I do like the way the Giants are building this team. And as you said, there's going to be 4 or 5 guys worth the top 20 pick that are quarterbacks next year, so they might be able to fix it then. Also, best case scenario, Daniel Jones has a solid season, and the rest of this team carries him over the finish line, and they make the playoffs. All right, Steve, number 11.
I had Detroit. I like Detroit across the board. I think they're a very fun team to watch. It's not like the old days when you would turn on and go, God, the Lions, who are they playing? It doesn't matter because it's going to be a boring game. They're fun. I just don't think Jared Goff is a quarterback who can keep up with the growth of that football team. I think you're getting about as good out of Jared Goff as you're going to ever get out of Jared Goff. He doesn't make a ton of bad mistakes. He just doesn't seem to do anything aggressively.
Well, how about this, Steve?
I don't know.
If Jared Goff would have been a guy drafted in the second round, everybody would be fine with the way his careers went. The thing that's killing him is being drafted that high in the first round.
The thing about it is, Mike, you would think of Jared Goff as a journeyman quarterback that can fill a void and can come in and do something better for you than Jacoby Brissett can.
Brissett,
whatever his name is, I think that you wouldn't look at Jared Goff the way you do from being, what was he, a number 2 pick or something like that?
I know. That's kind of my point, though. So
yeah,
he's not
terrible. But I think he's an adequate quarterback for the Lions as they're rebuilding. I do. But I think they're going to come to a point where the team's going to be better than their quarterback. And I think they need to be matching up a quarterback right now that can grow with the development of that team. Because I think, like we said,
Jimmy
in 3
Garoppolo.
or 4 years, we're going to be talking about Detroit as running that division.
Jimmy Garoppolo. It would be an awesome show to do after the Lions signed Jimmy
That
Garoppolo.
would be a Garoppolo to Detroit would be fabulous. Dan, I think you'd like that.
I'd be so disgusted.
What?
I'd be so repulsed.
So you think it's worse than Jared Goff?
Oh God, I think Garoppolo to Detroit would be.
You know what? I don't think it's worse, but just a general principle alone, I don't want it. I don't want it.
Dan,
I'd rather be worse with Goff.
Dan, I gotta repeat something that was said earlier off air. You're a dumbass.
Jimmy G, baby.
You're a dumbass if you don't want Garoppolo over Goff. I'd take Garoppolo over Matt Ryan in a heartbeat for the Colts. In a heartbeat, I'd say bring Garoppolo to Indianapolis.
Well, yeah, because you're trying to make the playoffs.
I'd pay for every meal he wants to eat at St. Elmo's Steakhouse. Are you kidding me?
You wouldn't, Steve. You wouldn't.
So that's 11. Right. We got the Giants.
11.
So my 11 is the Arizona Cardinals. And the Cardinals actually finished a lot lower in my chart than I thought they would, considering I know Mike doesn't think Kyler Murray's a top 15 quarterback.
Because he's not. He sucks ass.
I have him in my top 15 rankings.
Yeah, but you know what? Last year when I told you in the top 15 quarterback in the preseason, you told me I was stupid.
And you sounded stupid for the first 7 weeks of the season because he was playing on an MVP trajectory.
And I kept telling you what was going to happen, and you kept telling me that I was sick and disgusting, and then it happened.
Yeah, but he got hurt, and then Hop got hurt.
Now, you know what? Getting hurt doesn't mean you got to run like a scared rabbit in a playoff game. He's not an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, well, we'll see. He's going to have more opportunities because he ain't going anywhere anytime soon.
Dude,
but
all I could ask you is this: where did you just rank the Cardinals in a bad NFC?
11th.
Okay, so you just answered my question on who's sick and disgusting.
But
go ahead.
But in this case, I have him in the top 15, and the quarterback is the most important position. It's more heavily weighted than the others to help with the importance of it on the rankings. But the rest of the team is just really questionable across the board. I feel like this team just got worse in the offseason. Their offensive line is still needing to be rebuilt. Hopkins is suspended, I think, for the first 6 games of the season. They added Marquise Brown, but that does nothing to move the needle. He did nothing. He was not impressive in Baltimore. They could be good on offense. Their offense.
Real quick, we got somebody with a Redskin logo that says Dak is not good. But you know what? He's better than Kyler Murray. Go ahead.
He's better than Carson Wentz, but their defense too. They lost a lot of pieces on defense. Losing Chandler Jones hurts. Just the rankings altogether didn't add up, and the fact that I have their head coach Kingsbury ranked pretty lowly as well didn't help. But I'm surprised to see them this low personally, but I'll go with it. Arizona 11.
All right, I've got Arizona at number 10. Had a weird offseason. First, DeAndre Hopkins gets suspended for 6 games. So now Kyler Murray may play horribly all year long. But then Kyler Murray gets in a contract dispute. Then he signs a massive contract, but he's got to quit playing video games and watching Pornhub, and he's got to watch film. So
Great.
I don't know that, somebody with the mentality of Kyler Murray, who's like 15, is going to be able to do that. On top of that, you got Cliff Kingsbury as the coach. Cliff Kingsbury was a losing coach in college. He's a losing coach in the NFL. All right. So it's almost like he's Pete Carroll's son, and they both need to go somewhere far away from the NFL, because I think the Arizona Cardinals are a train wreck waiting to happen. And it's really scary when you think that probably early November last year, a lot of people thought the Cardinals were headed for the Super Bowl. So this is a team that isn't imploded. They've imploded because they have a head coach that's not qualified and a quarterback that's not qualified to be a quarterback. Steve, number 10.
Number 10, I've got the Cardinals. I'll say this one thing about Kyler Murray. We can make jokes about putting it in the closet, and it is kind of silly that it needs to be put in the closet.
It's crazy.
It's even more silly that it's made public. That's the part that why in the hell would anybody, either Murray's camp or the Cardinals camp, admit that they had to put that in a contract? Why don't they keep their mouth shut about that and not say a word, because they've done damage to both Murray and to the Cardinals. Murray, despite what you think about him, he is an explosive player.
Shit.
I mean, he can when things happen, they happen
awesome.
Good. I know he's not consistent. I'm not defending him. I'm just saying
he is a great college football player. You're correct, which is what you just explained.
Well, let me finish here. Then you can rip me and call me a dumbass too, and I'll feel really good about the day. Because my wife's already called me a dumbass, so you might as well join in. Anyway, the thing about it is, if you make him sit down and if he actually studies film and pays attention to it, it's only going to make him better. So I don't know what to expect out of all this, but I think it's a big if. I know, and I'm not necessarily a Kyler Murray fan. I think they overpaid in a huge way for a guy who's been nothing but a disappointment since they drafted him. But I still think he has undeniable potential in the NFL.
Okay. I think everybody that was ever born has undeniable potential. The problem is very few people ever have.
You did not. You did not have undeniable potential.
I mean, this is the thing.
I got contacted by the Dallas Cowboys to come down to camp and try out.
Because you were tall. You played basketball because you were tall. I mean, fuck. Give me a break.
Let me tell you something.
If you were 6 feet tall, you'd have been fucked.
Size matters, my little friend.
My little friend.
I'm gonna start calling you Tattoo from here on.
You know what?
Here we go.
You're a dumbass. And I'll tell you what, when I was 19 and you were 19, I was 6 feet tall. You were 6'8". One-on-one, I'd have smoked your ass. But because the only thing you'd have been able to do is throw elbows and shit, because that's what you did. You were a henchman. That's okay, though, because the world needs henchmen. I will tell you
one of the original Hanson brothers, you idiot.
You're really not. You weren't good enough to be a Hanson brother, because that'd be like Bill Laimbeer, and he was a fucking legend.
He was one of the Bruise brothers, and I played against that son of a bitch, and he was evil. He was mean when he was at Notre Dame.
Yeah, so he was tougher than you, is what you're saying.
No, he was 3 inches taller than me.
Oh, all right. So there you go, Dan. I think we go back to the height matters when you're a basketball
wait a minute. Now, the Cowboys didn't call Laimbeer to ask him to go try out for a tight end position.
Fuck no, because he was such a good basketball player. There was no way they were going to get him. You didn't have a choice.
The NBA.
You were like the 17th round pick in a 6th round draft, Steve.
I was a 6th round pick in the NBA.
You were a 7th round pick.
6th. Give me a break.
I can Wikipedia that mother. All right, so
I'm not on Wikipedia.
We're at my number 10.
What's your number 10, Dan?
My number 10 is the Detroit Lions. Simple.
Homer.
I don't say anything else. I don't say anything else about these clowns.
All righty. We would go to number 9, Dan.
All right, so number 9, this is where it got interesting with my rankings. I'm going to go with Washington. And even though their quarterback falls pretty low on my chart, I have Carson Wentz ranked at number 28.
Huh?
Yes.
Out of 32?
Yeah.
You're
That's
wrong
the
there,
dumbest
Dan.
shit I've ever heard of.
Really, Dan, you are now being a
Should
double
he be-
Oh, my
real quick
God.
here.
Should he be lower?
No.
He should be much fucking higher. He's
Higher.
probably top 12 talent-wise. It's just when we get to late December.
Carson Wentz is a good quarterback who had a bad year with a dumbass owner who cut him too early.
Carson Wentz didn't have a bad year. He had a bad couple weeks at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's all. You're exactly right. He had a bad couple of weeks, and Irsay.
So wait a second. So you're telling me that Carson Wentz, there's only like 4 quarterbacks worse than him that start the NFL?
Oh God, Dan.
I have Fields. Hold on. Let me look at this right. Hold on. Okay, yeah. So I have 29. I have Fields. 30. I have Mariota. 31. I have Dan Jones, and 32. I have whoever the Seahawks quarterback starter is. Just ahead of Wentz at number 27. You're not going to like this either, but I have Baker Mayfield at number 27.
Well,
that's
stupid too. I mean, what do you do? Just not like white guys?
Yeah, I don't like any of them. I don't like any of those white guys at my quarterback position. But no, but yeah. So anywho,
you said that, Mike.
So I got
now. Corbett's going to call you and not me.
They're not going to call.
So I got Wentz is the only low-ranked thing about this team aside from their secondary. Their front seven should be elite with all those first-rounders they got. Their offensive line is at least average. I like the weapons they have.
Carson Wentz is much better than Kyler Murray, by the way.
I'll respectfully disagree on that front.
I mean, every time we've had an argument about a quarterback, you've ended up being respectfully wrong. So go ahead.
I disagree on that too. But anywho,
give me an example where you were right and I was wrong.
I mean, aside from
Dan, how tall are you?
5'10".
He's
fucking
a freaking
offensive
midget.
Fucking
He's
offensive
like a little
guard.
girl.
That's all he's good for.
He's not even a guard. You can't play guard in the NFL. You can't play
in
guard in
the
the NBA either.
In the 60s, I would be.
Whatever.
Yeah, he'd have been an offensive guard. That's it. Just go hit somebody and fall down. And
what do you weigh, Dan?
What do I weigh?
Yeah, what do you weigh?
230.
Oh, so you're fat.
Whoa!
That's even worse.
Whoa!
Damn.
Thick boy.
Damn. Thick boy my ass. You need to drop like 60 pounds. You're on the obesity meter. All right, Dude. Steve, who you got at number 9?
I have the Redskins. And I think Carson Wentz is an improvement to that football team. I do think the Colts should have probably – I don't think that Matt Ryan's a bad choice for them. We're not going to talk about the Colts, but Carson Wentz had 2 bad weeks. The team had 2 bad weeks, and it cost them the chance to be in the playoffs. The whole team stunk that up, not just Carson Wentz, although he's the quarterback. I sat here and watched both games, and that whole team stunk up, and all on Carson Wentz is wrong. I think he's going to be a welcome addition to that team, and I think if they stand by him, and he had a healthy year. He's still, for the most part, he stayed healthy all year. I think he's going to elevate that team and make them better, and I think they'll be in the hunt for a wild card spot before the year's over.
All right, my number 9 is the Minnesota Vikings. I think it's hard to buy him as a playoff contender. I actually think Kirk Cousins is a solid quarterback. They got a new head coach, Kevin O'Connell, so we don't really know about him, but he does have an offensive background. You do have Dalvin Cook. You do have Justin Jefferson, who I think may be the best wide receiver in football. They've got a potent offensive attack, but there are major questions on that defense and the offensive line. So I think this probably does not play out well for the Vikings. I do think they're dangerous, though, and if that offensive line could just be average, they might be able to do something. My number 8 is the Washington Commanders. I know Steve misspoke and called them the Redskins, and you all know I like to be politically correct. So, Steve, you're going to have to issue a public apology later.
But hang on here. Well, let me see where I'm reading this from, and I'll tell you why I call them that.
What are you reading something from? You should just be telling us off the top of your head like me and Dan do.
Here, I'm looking at things, and I'm just NFL Power Rankings brought to you by, I don't know, I can't even get.
All right, guys, find the best place to bet for you while Steve's trying to find his place on his sheet. Betting.net
they still
offers
call them the
expert
Redskins.
and user reviews for every online sportsbook casino in your state. All right, what are we at, Dan? Steve's number 8?
Number 8 for Steve.
Come on, Steve, number 8.
I've got the Vikings at number 8. I think anytime you got Kirk Cousins, you're a dangerous football team. I think he's that good. I like him as a quarterback. So they're in a weak division. I think they can have a chance to, they're probably the second best team in that division right now. And aside from the Packers, and they have a chance again to win a lot of games because of the cherry picks they're going to have in their division. I think they can make things happen, and maybe you watch them eke into the playoffs.
All right, my number 8 is the Washington Commanders. Did I say that?
You did say that.
Yeah, but then I let Steve go, didn't I?
Yeah.
Because Dan screwed it up and said it was Steve's turn. All right.
And then mine's number 8.
I trust Washington. I think Carson Wentz is a good quarterback. I think anybody that has him in the bottom 10 is a moron. But this team has a very good defensive front, a good skill position group, and also maybe the NFL will finally do something about Daniel Snyder and get rid of him, which will probably inspire the entire team. Go ahead, Dan.
They got to get rid of that, man. It's absurd. But anywho, my number 8, I've got the Minnesota Vikings. And Mike, as you said, that offense, it's pretty stacked. I'm excited to see what they'll do with a coach that doesn't hate his quarterback, because it was well known that Mike Zimmer was not a fan of Kirk Cousins during his tenure. That's part of the reason why they kept giving him 1-year deals every year, because they just didn't trust him. And then finally, when they relented, there was always like an out that they had. So now that he's gone, Cousins can play, free, I guess. There's no real challenge behind them. But anywho, the offense is good. They got good weapons. The O-line is up and coming. And they do have good pieces on defense. I like Hunter and Smith as an edge rushing duo. I like their secondary. I like Lewis Seen that they had in the first round at safety. So, they've got talent, but they're on the outside looking in for me when it comes to the playoffs.
All right, what are we up to? Number 7, Dan?
Number 7, I've got the New Orleans Saints in at number 7. And this one was it was a little bit of a surprise at first, but then when I really looked at it.
Hey, Dan, if Sean Payton was still the head coach, we would have him higher than this.
Oh, well, yes. Yes, we would. But that would be because, you got an all-time coach there. He's a top 3 coach in the NFL if he would be coaching right now. So that takes him a bit farther than, their current coaching situation, who in his previous spots, particularly, with the Raiders, Allen didn't do well in his last head coaching stint. But this is different. Maybe he's learned, and he's got a lot of talent on this team. It's particularly on defense. All of it will come down to the quarterback position. Is Winston going to stay healthy? Is he going to not turn the ball over 30 times? If he can stay healthy and not turn it over 30 times, this team could make some noise and could very well make the playoffs, because their defense is legit. They are elite. And this team could surprise. A lot of coulds there. And I want to see what happens with Alvin Kamara, because he's going through his own legal issues now. And if he gets suspended for 8 games or something, yeah, they have Ingram, but they don't really have much else at the position. And we know they like to run the ball. At least last year, they loved to run the ball. But the Saints are an interesting team. I got them at number 7.
All right, I have them at 7 also. And like I said, Dennis Allen's the big question, plus Alvin Kamara's possibly suspension. I think we saw Jameis Winston look very good last year. I think people forget his touchdown-interception ratio was really good, or as Dan would say, nice, until he got hurt. They have a loaded roster. I'm going to put them at 7 just because of Dennis Allen. Wouldn't surprise me if they do much better than that, though. Steve, number 7.
All right, Saints. I'm with you guys. I'm not going to repeat what you guys said.
All right, number 6. I've got the 49ers. I think the 49ers are a top 4 team if they weren't going with Trey Lance. I think there's a lot of questions about Lance. And, I mean, it's easy to see this team. If Trey Lance is what they think he is, they've got a shot to go to the Super Bowl. If he's not what they think he is, they've got a mess. This is a huge season for the 49ers, not just this year, but in the seasons coming up over the next couple years. Steve, number 6.
I've got the Eagles at number 6.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Short and sweet. Okay.
See, my only issue is this. I
trying to
trust
find my
Jalen
notes on
Hurts.
you.
Even
What?
though I don't love Jalen Hurts, I trust him a lot more than Trey Lance. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, for my number 6, I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers as well. For everything that Mike said, and with the chart, everything is good except the quarterback position. And having a quarterback ranked in the mid to late 20s is going to hurt you in my formula. But they're above average on the offensive line. They're elite up front. Have maybe the best defensive line in football potentially. Their secondary is at least average, and I love their head coach. Shanahan's one of the top 10 head coaches in the NFL when he's on. So I'm gonna go with San Francisco here, and I'm not upset where they rank right now, actually. And they could be higher, actually. If
But they could also be lower because if Trey Lance is not that good, all of a sudden they're the 12th best team in the NFC.
Yeah, it could be bad.
All right, number 5, Dan.
Number 5, I got the Dallas Cowboys. And with the top 5, it really was a separation of the top 3 and then pretty much everybody else.
Really, I think it was top 2 and then everybody else.
Well, I think you're gonna hate my top 3, and you're gonna be surprised how it turns out. But
I probably won't hate it since all my top 3 you haven't said yet, so they're at least going to be in the top 5. Dan, go ahead.
But for me, it was the top 3 and everybody else in this conference. And Dallas as a 5th team, they could very well win the East, but they have a lot of questions, respectfully, on their end on both sides of the ball. And I really want to see how things turn out because the Eagles are just as good, and in my rankings here, they're better. So they can't be sleeping on the Eagles.
There's a big difference between Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott, though.
Oh, there's a huge difference. Absolutely.
See, with 2 even teams, I will lean towards Prescott, but I also think that the Cowboys coach is a joke, and I think really we're going to see, of course, Sean Payton be the head coach of the Cowboys next year, almost no matter what happens this year.
Yeah, the big difference for me in my rankings here was for Dallas, and at least between Dallas and Philly, since they are my spoiler alert, my 4 and 5, and they are division rivals.
They're my 4 and 5 also, just maybe not in the same order you've got them.
The only thing that separated them, because the quarterback was such a huge discrepancy, was the Dallas Cowboys defense, front 7 and secondary is worse than the Eagles, and the head coach is ranked worse, and the offensive line is just a little worse. But that's not saying much because Philly I have ranked as the top offensive line in the league going into the season. So it's not bad to be behind number 1. And Dallas still has a top 10 offensive line if they're healthy, but that's a huge if because Tyron Smith seems to miss time every season.
Yeah, my number 5 is the Philadelphia Eagles. I just think the difference here is Dak Prescott. Also, Micah Parsons, by the time he is done, will be the best defensive player in the NFL if he's not already, which I did tell you he was the best player going into last year's draft. And I still think that. I think Micah Parsons makes this defense really good. I think they're loaded. And the question is, can they overcome injuries? I don't think losing Amari Cooper to Randy Gregory hurts at all because Amari Cooper, to me, he's not special. I mean, Amari Cooper doesn't have big games and big situations. Randy Gregory, you never know what the hell you're getting. I mean, he was coached by Steve Risley when he was younger. So that right there means he probably talks to himself in his sleep. But I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles at 5. And the reason I say that is I don't trust Jalen Hurts. He looked bad in the playoff games. I do think they improved the roster as dramatically as anybody in the offseason. But I'm going to go with the Eagles at 5. And I'll tell you this. I firmly believe the Washington Commanders could jump up and win this division. Because when you look at the Commanders, they've got a better defense, I think, than either one of these teams. And they've got a quarterback that I think is better than Hurts. Not as good as Prescott, maybe. And you've got a big-time runner back. You've got big-time wide receivers in Washington. I think this is a 3-horse race. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put Philadelphia at number 5, Steve.
I got Dallas.
Number 5.
Well, I'll start off and I'll go Dallas number 4. I think I've already told you why. So, but I don't trust Mike McCarthy. I think that's a mess there. And this Dak is not good as he's named. Keeps saying Dak is not good. I'll tell you this. You could say that Dak Prescott is not a top 10 quarterback, but to say Dak is not good is kind of silly. I mean, it just is. I mean, he's obviously good. The question is he better than good? You know, most of these guys in the NFL are good. Hell, they wouldn't be in the NFL if they weren't. So I think it's kind of foolish to say that Dak Prescott, when you watch him play, is not good. Now, I do think that it is debatable whether he's top 10 or not, but that doesn't mean he's not good. Number 4. Are we at number 4 now, Dan?
Yeah, because you said Dallas. Mine is Philly. And Steve's, what's your 4?
My 4 is 49ers. I think that they're going to make that change and get Garoppolo behind the snap, the center, as quick as it's going to be faster than you think. I think, and when they do, I think that team's poised to make noise, and you know they'll have to face the Rams, no doubt. But I'm not sure they can't handle the Rams.
Yeah, but remember this.
I think Garoppolo's that good of a quarterback.
He's not. I mean, he's not. Now, when you talk about Matt Stafford, I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's around a 8 through 12 guy. But Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to win you a Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo, if you have the right people around him, can win a Super Bowl. But he's not going to win you that Super Bowl. And I think we saw that when he played Kansas City. I mean, they had, a 10-point lead?
Well, Mike, as you know, there are some cities that are just thrilled to death to have their team in the Super Bowl. Do you know anybody who that may have happened to recently?
No. The Colts haven't been there in forever.
No. Well, I'm not talking about the Colts because I don't have the same aspirations you do.
What are you talking about? I don't know of any team or fan base that would be happy just to make it to a Super Bowl.
Oh, okay.
If you're insinuating something, you're completely wrong because if you lose the Super Bowl, the season was a waste of time.
Poor Steve.
With your dumbass Colts jersey, steal somebody else's team and act like you did something. All right, we are at number 3. What?
Yeah, we're down to the last 3. Here we go.
My number 3 is the Green Bay Packers. I think they drop out of the top 2 because they lost Devontae Adams. And while Aaron Rodgers absolutely deserves the benefit of the doubt in trying to win without a number 1 wideout, it's a lot easier said than done in the NFL. I think the Packers may have the best defense in the NFC. But I could see this going really bad for the Packers. I could also see them, playing defense. Aaron Rodgers having a big season, them making it to a championship game. But, of course, Rodgers will choke once they get there probably, or the coach will. So I've got the Green Bay Packers at number 3, Steve.
I have Packers as well. Bless you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Bless you, my friend.
Hey, you know what, Steve? You can't use the Lord's name in vain during the show, and then when somebody sneezes, say, bless you.
When did I use the Lord's name in vain?
Early on in the show. We can pull it back up and make a TikTok video out of it.
I definitely have.
I did say it?
I definitely have.
Because
I keep said it at the start.
Go back and watch Molly. I've got Good Golly Miss Molly written down on my notes.
Good Golly Miss Molly.
Yeah.
Now, what's the next line to that song, Dan?
I don't know. That's my age group range.
It's not my age group range, but
it's a Little Richard song to begin with. So,
all right, were you done on the Packers, Steve, or do you have more to pontificate on?
No, you guys already talked about the Packers for all the reasons you said.
How about you, Dan? Oh, sorry.
I would say my number 3 team, and again, don't kill me, Mike, but it was a close one. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here at number 3, but just to be completely transparent, them and the Rams are tied with the same amount of total points in my ranking system.
And I'm sure that I really give 2 shits what your tie on your total points is from your stupid ass rankings. But go ahead.
Just saying. I'm just saying. I just want to be totally candid with you guys here, okay? Yeah. With my rankings. I just want to be clear. But no, Mike, you made a good point with losing Devontae Adams and whatnot. Questions on the offensive side, but I just think this will open it up for the Packers to run the ball even more. They've got 2 legit 1 and 1B running back types in Aaron Jones.
Hey, you do realize the Rams and Bucks are teams that you probably need to be throwing the ball because you're not usually running on them too well.
Well, regardless, I'll get back to the Packers later. But I had the Bucks 3, so let me talk about the Bucks real quick. I love the Bucks. Tampa Bay is my top quarterback in the NFL, and my QB rankings, or second rather, behind Josh Allen. But they're elite quarterback, elite offensive line, elite front seven, elite secondary, second best secondary for me, behind Baltimore. The only thing that holds them back is their head coach. I had him ranked in the 20s in my coaching rankings, and it's only because we don't really know what to expect from him. We know he was a former head coach of the Jets, and they had some success, but just not quite right, and he fizzled out in New
So
York.
you're not bothered by the wide receiver situation?
What about it? I mean, they still have Evans. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, they still have Evans. I'm not worried about the tight end, but they still have Evans. Godwin was cleared to practice coming off his ACL injury. I don't know if he'll be ready week 1.
I was actually talking about the Packers, but go ahead.
Oh, well, no. The Bucks are my number 3, so there it is. But, yeah, my Bucks are my number 3. But I'm not worried about their wide receiver anything with them, really.
Well, I'm not either. That's why I'm saying it's kind of stupid to put the Packers ahead of them. Steve, what do you think? Number 3. Or did you already give it to us?
I have the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Number 2, Dan.
My number 2, the LA Rams. I said they were tied with the Bucks. They have the same amount of points.
You're an absolute fool. It's almost time because before the show,
Mike,
Steve
shut
said,
up.
maybe we ought to just have Joe come on the show. Go ahead,
cool.
Dan.
Let Dan talk.
Dan, you're talking right now. Go ahead, Dan.
It was close with them, but for me, I'm just really going with my chart. I'm sticking with it. This is the first year I made it public, and I'm just going with it. These 3 teams, for my chart at least, they were really close. And I know Mike's going to disagree. I know he thinks the Bucks and the Rams are much better than the Packers and everybody else in the NFC. But let's say it for what it is. Yes, Aaron Rodgers struggles in the playoffs. Yes, that's an absolute fact. We can't deny that. But during the regular season, the man's bad. They've won 13 games 3 years in a row.
Devontae Adams.
Listen, they've won 13 games 3 years in a row. He's won back-to-back MVPs. He doesn't throw interceptions, and I don't think that's going to change. I don't think that's going to change with Adams gone. They're going to run the ball more. They have a good offensive line if they're healthy. The offensive line health is key because they had guys playing all over the line last season because they had all kinds of injuries. It was really bad. They had
injury problems the last 3 years with those guys.
It's been bad, but if they're healthy,
let me ask you this: on your little chart that you just now made public for the first time ever, do you factor in an offensive line that has injury issues, or do you just figure how good they are when they're all healthy?
For this, it's meant to be like for a start of the season kind of a thing. So this is assuming that they're healthy week 1. So the chart, it's not perfect. It's not a foolproof system. It's just a fun way for me to kind of see how these teams are built and how they're looking ranked on a year-to-year basis. And it's a fun little exercise for me. It's not terrible. It's not perfect. Like, you don't want to see the Packers as your top team on your NFC power rankings, and that's fine. But the NFL is crazy, and if they win 13 games again, they might very well be the number 1 seed or close to it. So,
well, you know what? 2 years ago they were the number 1 seed, and Tom Brady still whooped their ass.
Yeah, well, it happens.
And last year they were a high seed, weren't they? And San Francisco wouldn't whip their ass.
Yep, that happens.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, it's not perfect. It doesn't take into account, changes at the skill positions and stuff like that. But we'll see. I'm sticking to it. So I got the Rams 3, the Bucks 3, the Rams 2, and then spoiler, Packers 1.
Okay, that's stupid. All right, what I've got the Bucks at number 2. Julio Jones was signed. Normally, I would think that's stupid, but since he's going to Tom Brady, I'm sure he'll have one last miraculous stand in him. The Bucks are loaded. My number 1's the Rams. I mean, it's going to be the same thing I said about the Bengals. They were the best team last year in the AFC. They got better, so I'm going to rank them 1. The Rams, number 1 team in the NFC. I don't know that they got better, but they added Allen Robinson, who I think is a damn good receiver. They may have lost Von Miller, but as long as Matt Stafford's healthy, the LA Rams have to be number 1. Steve, agree or disagree?
Yes, I agree. I've got the Bucks at number 2. My only concern is, Dad, you hate to say it because I think he's the best quarterback in the game, but Brady's he's gonna fall off at some point.
We've been saying that for 4 years
I
on
know
this
we
show,
have
too.
been, but at some point it's gonna hit us. And
Same with Rodgers.
I know it's gonna happen.
Rodgers is like 5 years younger.
If he
than Brady.
doesn't fall off, the Bucs are the team to beat. If he falls off, which I'm saying I think he's going to this year, and they're not going to be able to rely on him quite as much, I just think it's going to happen this year. And I think what Brady wants now is he wants to leave with a Super Bowl ring in his bag when he's walking out the door for the last time.
And we said that 2 years ago, too.
Yeah, and I know we did. I know we did. I can't.
That's why I stopped saying it, because I've said it for like 5 years, so I'm not ripping you on it.
I'm calling myself a dumbass on this one. You don't have to do it. But
I didn't call you a dumbass because I've said the same thing for 5 years.
Easily have another MVP year for that matter and lead his team to a Super Bowl victory. But I've got Tampa Bay number 2 than I have for all the reasons you said, Mike. I got the Rams number 1 too. I think they're the team to beat in the NFC.
All right, so it's settled. Me and Steve agree. That means Dan's the dumbass of the day.
That's all right. I'll wear that proudly.
That's a good award to win, baby.
All right, real quick, I want to tell everybody, in an hour, the NASCAR show will be on. We had a little controversy over the weekend. I'm sure the guys, Steve, Joe, and Ryan, will discuss that. Make sure you check them out live around 10 o'clock. We will be back. You guys want to go Sunday or Wednesday? We go Sunday and start breaking down the divisions if you guys want.
Dan, up to you.
Dan,
I will tell you I will have a post-race NASCAR show at some point Sunday evening.
Yeah, but you guys don't do that till like 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Okay. I'm in. I'm always hang with you guys another hour with you guys. I'm always up for that.
So let's do this. Let's do 8 o'clock AFC East on Sunday.
8 o'clock AFC East. Let me write this down so I can. And Dan, I'm really glad you share your little chart with everybody, especially the three of us.
I don't need to see his chart. I don't need a chart.
Right there. That's my chart.
All right, guys. And tomorrow night at 9 o'clock live, you'll be able to hear the Inside Boxing Weekly show as myself and John Raspani break down the upcoming Danny Garcia, Jose Benavidez Jr. fight on Saturday night. And, of course, we'll have the Old Farts Corner where we talk about Oscar De La Hoya because, all sports nowadays suck compared to the old days. All right, Dan, you want to get the damn paper out of there because it's annoying as hell. Not as annoying as your face, though, so put it back up. Do you have any final words, Dan?
I'm just happy football's back. I'm so excited. Let's do it.
Okay.
That's
Steve, any final words of wisdom?
I did know what Dan said. I'm thrilled the death camps are open and they're getting after it. And it's football bet. We also should mention quietly, NFL Plus has started streaming now. There is a streaming channel.
Yeah, but you can't get it on your TV. It's only on your phone or computer.
It's not on my TV yet either. So
it's not going to be. So screw them. I'd have bought it if they'd have put it so I could get on my TV because I like the old 22.
On the streaming service. It's got to be on.
It's not. I looked it up on Roku today, and they did not have
the other
an NFL
news
Plus.
Is, and Mike, this is something that you and I talked about off air. And Dan was repairing a catalytic converter that was stolen somewhere in Poughkeepsie, New Jersey, no doubt.
Stolen.
They steal catalytic converters all the time. That's the biggest thing to steal.
It's a thing.
A lot of copper in those things, a lot of materials that are worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Anyway, the NFL has sold NFL Direct Ticket to Apple Plus TV. So this year I just laid out $250 to get NFL Direct Ticket, which gives you all live, out of market.
But next year you get it for $4.99 a month, is what you told me.
Next year you get it as part of your Apple Plus package, of which I have Apple Plus. So I will not have to jump out the $250. The selling price was $3 billion.
Man.
$3 billion to the 32 owners in the NFL. Less what they pay Roger Goodell.
Maybe
his
Kyler Murray is not being overpaid then. Hell.
maybe he's not anymore. If you dump $3 billion and divide that among 32, that's like winning the damn lottery. Okay.
The Powerball, which Dan will win, I predict, if he buys a ticket.
Let's go.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Make sure you check out the NASCAR show in an hour, Inside Boxing Weekly tomorrow. But for now, for Dan Kornhauser, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to The Grueling Truth.